Across to the guests who are joining us, Santosh Mehrota and Vijay Sardana, both economists on the show. Vijay Sardana, let me begin with you. How do you look at this report that is clearly one, if I begin at the very top, talking about the big transformation under Narendra Modi Sarkar? And while it is not a matter of much debate, I think one of the fundamental things that have improved, especially in the last 5 years or in this term of the Modi government, is also big ticket infrastructure. And that has been acknowledged and talked about in this report.
Yeah, first of all, good evening to all of you. This is true. Not only the physical infrastructure, but also the delivery infrastructure. What we have seen is various roads, highways and everything, airports, ports, anywhere you go to the country, they all are visible development changes. At the same time, we have seen how this whole delivery system through Digital India, whether it is transferring money to farmers, poor, ladies, different accounts, that's another IT infrastructure or backbone in the country, which is making a whole lot of difference. So no doubt, things have improved. Another area which we have to look at is also the amount of AIIMS and other institutions which are under development and already in places. Tourist infrastructure, which is also attracting a lot of tourism in the country. So overall, definitely there is an improvement. Whatever we say that things have not improved or whatever, but I think the visible evidence is what report says is definitely an acknowledgement of the development which is taking place in the last so many years.
Before I come to the political aspect that this report has touched in, it has said that one of the key risks to this projection is a fragmented mandate in 2024, putting the spotlight on the next general elections. Mr. Mehrota, your opening comments on the report itself. Very clearly, it has given a thumbs up and a stamp of approval on the economic aspects of the Narendra Modi government and how it says that India of 2023 is not the India of 2013.
If not the India of?
2013.
Yeah, it's not the same India. 10 years have passed. But let's just remember what the job of a investment banking organization, an international investment banker like Morgan Stanley is. Its whole objective is to try and make India appealing to foreign investors. So it has no choice but to put a positive spin on everything. Other than the infrastructure investment having gone up, and infrastructure delivery having gone up, I can point to you 10 problems with this report. And if you don't mind, I will begin straight away. So its first slide is about supply side policy reforms, about corporate tax rates now down to 23%. And of course, in the case of new investments, it's down to 15%. So clearly, corporate tax revenues have actually fallen. They have fallen by 1.4 lakh crores per annum. So while another part of the report talks about formalization and GST increasing, the fact of the matter is when you take into account both direct taxes as well as indirect taxes, meaning corporate as well as GST, the tax to GDP ratio has not risen at all.
But isn't a decreasing corporate rate a fundamentally pro-growth and pro-corporate sector demand that was coming from the corporate sector as well?
A demand coming from the corporate sector has not necessarily translated into an increase in private investment to GDP. The investment that has increased is on account of public investment, which is what I began by talking about, which is infrastructure. In addition...
All right, I get your point. You're saying that everything is not rosy, but I don't know if anybody is suggesting that. But you're suggesting that, this report is because it wants to sell India. The reality is that all reports in the past were not trying to sell India when the product wasn't good. You can only sell when the product is good. And there is, of course, several other parameters or other reports by which India is emerging as the bright spot, even in a tough economical aspect. But I want to focus on the issue of mandates. Vijay Sardana, what this report is also highlighting is possibly continuity and stability in government, especially in a country like India at the central level, is key to continued rate of growth.
This is true. They see one of the bigger challenge around the world is that when the government or the policymakers change or guards change at the policy making level, there was a disruption in policy continuity or stable policy environment. That is why you remember when the WTO came into existence, one of the major agenda of WTO around the world was that there has to be a stability and predictability for the investors and the investment community so that their investment should not go waste. And there is a need to have a reduced political risk. Definitely, this is one of the risks always there in the economy, in especially democratic setup. But by and large, I don't think that any government which will come in power will make a drastic U-turn on any of the development policies. Yes, priorities may change. That is one aspect we have to factor in. Whether it was Manmohan Singh government, after that Modi government, I think the country's some of the major policies remain in the growth phase.
Okay, but what about
Yes,
a fractured mandate? A fractured mandate, and that is the message. And I think that's the message that suits.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah, that suits obviously the incumbent in this case. While what we see in Indian politics today is a lot of opposition parties wanting to come together, what this report is suggesting is, anything that falls short of a majority could bring down the rate of growth.
Absolutely, because many of the smaller parties, when they form a group of so-called coalition government, they all are short-sighted because their question of existence is always there. And the only way for existence of directionless political parties, freebies, or giving some sort of a distorted benefit to the voters / citizens. So there is always a threat of coalition government derailing the development path. But if there is an absolute majority, I think there will be policy stability. This remains as a risk in any democratic system.
Yes, Mr.